Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing, and before we go any further, we've reached 2,000 subscribers, largely thanks to G-Man over at G-Man Boxing. Thanks again, G-Man, and thank you if you subscribed. Reaching 2,000 is a nice little milestone. When I started the channel, I thought I might get 500 subscribers. I thought, that'll do. But no, 2,000 and counting. Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much. Okay, I want to talk a bit about the situation with Alycia Baumgardner, who failed a test, PED test, the latest one of many. I made a video last night about that. I hope I came across as being completely exasperated by the whole thing, because that's exactly what I am. I'm losing the will to live with all this test stuff. And I thought it was interesting that a few people said, don't worry, she's under Matchroom, Eddie Hearn will get her off. Okay, now I understand why people have said this, okay, but in the interest of objectivity, and if you're going to be a serious commentator on anything, or if you're going to follow any kind of, I guess you'd call it a soap opera, wouldn't you, in terms of boxing soap opera. If you're going to be serious about following it and, fairly, you have to consider both sides of the argument. And I understand why people say, they don't trust Hearn. To be honest with you, I don't trust Eddie Hearn. As I've said before in many videos, I would trust him about as far as I could throw him. I don't think he's. I think he's a politicker and a spinmeister. And if I was in his stable of fighters and he was representing me, that's great. That's absolutely great, because he's going to fight my corner well. But if you're interested in objectivity and seeing the absolute truth and not having the wool pulled over your eyes, he's not the man for you. Okay, so I've been critical of Hearn, and again, I understand why people are critical of him, especially because of the Conor Benn situation. As you know, if you've seen my videos before, I was very, very critical of Hearn and the whole Conor Benn debacle, and the fact that it was an absolute PR disaster. But I watched a few interviews with Hearn, who was asked about the Baumgardner situation, and during the course of a couple of them, the interviewer said, why is it always Matchroom fighters getting nicked, or seemingly so? That's the public perception anyway. He didn't phrase it like that, but I'm paraphrasing. Why, people are going to ask that question. And Hearn said something that is true, that cannot just be swept aside. He said, look, if you sign up for all these, with all these different drug agencies, and you insist your fighters, or the fighters on your card, have comprehensive drug tests, again, I'm paraphrasing, but because PEDs are so rife in boxing, and only a fool, I think, would think that they weren't. I mean, they're all over the place. You will catch more people the more drug agencies you sign up with, the more comprehensive you insist testing is done. So as a result, because Matchroom have insisted on the highest quality of testing, more fighters on Matchroom cards are being nicked, and that seems to me to be something that you can't just brush aside, because if you look at Matchroom and DAZN and what they're doing in terms of opposing PED use and trying to catch people, they're actually right. Hearn is actually right about that. Matchroom do insist on fighters comprehensively, sometimes at their own expense. As weird enough, as is the case with Dillian White, he pays for VADA tests and everything out of his own pocket. But they insist that fighters, they want PED users out of the sport. Now, Hearn is well aware, whether he admits it or not, the damage he caused to his reputation and Matchroom's reputation by going through the whole Conor Benn farce. Okay. Because whether he likes it or not, and even whether it's accurate or not, the public perception is that he tried to cover something up, or he tried to make excuses for Ben, or he said things that aren't true, like, he's been cleared when he hadn't, and and all of that criticism in that instance, I think is correct, or the majority of it is, because I think Hearn was being, how can I say this without being litigious or slanderous? He was trying to massage facts to the point where the public there was a bit of wiggle room in the public's consciousness, and I don't think the public bought it. And Hearn, certainly when he was interviewed on the second occasion by Simon Jordan, said, you know, we've learnt our lessons. Well, I hope you have, Eddie, because you did a shit ton of damage to your reputation. And he did say, well, you know, Conor Benn he said certain things, he did certain things, certain interviews and so on, and he behaved in a way that I think was a mistake. I think is how he phrased it. Yes, he did, but the fact is, Eddie, you're only now saying that. At the time, you were backing him. Now, I think that, getting back to the original point, Hearn's view that if you insist the fighters that you are working with are comprehensively tested at regular intervals, random testing, by reputable organisations, thoroughly tested, because of course urine screens can be different from swab tests and so on and so forth. If you insist on that, you will catch more people. And some promoters don't do that. In some parts of the world, I mean, testing is absolutely almost openly corrupt. Over here in Britain, far less so. You know, it's more a case of mistakes can get made, if mistakes are made, rather than open, what I think a couple of people have used the phrase, weaponised drug testing. I mean, that is a concept that, again, one can't dismiss, but as things stand, as far as Britain is concerned, it's more conspiracy theory than anything else. And I'm not someone who has a conspiratorial mind. Conspiracies happen, certainly, that they're usually individual and they're usually disparate. There is no great, you know, new world order of boxing manipulating all sorts of things. It's just the modern mentality infused by the internet, the advent of the internet and all sorts of bullshit that are on it. I think in Britain it's unlikely that weaponised drug testing is used, very, very unlikely. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I'm saying if I'm going to believe it, I want to see solid evidence. The only solid evidence I've seen so far is that certain people have failed certain tests. Okay, and that to me is evidence. And it's then up to that individual, whether it's Dillian White, Alycia Baumgardner or anyone else, or Conor Benn, to come up with perfectly legitimate science to refute those accusations. It's like being in the dock, in a courtroom. The prosecution will say, we have this evidence, this smoking gun, which is the PED test, the positive test. What do you say? And then your evidence to refute that it better come from recognised neutral experts, and it had better be solid. Otherwise you're nicked. So just a few further thoughts on PED testing, and you know, look, I'm not an Eddie Hearn fan. I just think that we have to take into consideration that what he said is true. Those who insist on more testing, random testing, complete testing, comprehensive testing, you're going to find more people out than if you don't do any of that. If you don't do any of that, you won't find anyone out. And everything will have the veneer of being nice and reputable, and of course it's anything but. So what do you think? Leave your thoughts below. You may agree with me, you may disagree with me. That's fine. You know, that's what it's all about. It's all about debate, serious, sensible, adult debate. Comments below. Again, a big thank you if you've subscribed. Hit the like button on the video. Let's keep building Joe Stunner Boxing up. Thank you again to G-Man, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments. And in the meantime, try not to fail any PED tests. Bye for now.